So in 2022, we certainly got a lot more than what we bargained for in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. We had brilliant games, brilliant moments, late goals, late drama, penalty shootouts, absolutely everything. And of course, a brand new competition thrown in there in the Tailteann Cup. But one thing we didn't get in 2022 in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship was, well, a defence from the All-Ireland Senior Football Champions in 2021. When Tyrone won the All-Ireland in 2021, it was a huge moment for the Tyrone senior footballers. They won their first All-Ireland in 13 years. Brian Donahue and Fergal Logan had brought the Sam Maguire back across the border for the first time in 13 years. A huge moment for Tyrone. Something that they had been longing for a long time. Now, when they won the All-Ireland in 2021, it certainly was a surprise to most people. I mean, everyone was looking at Dublin as the serious favourites going into that year's championship, given the fact that they had obviously won 6 in a row. They were the team to beat. And, I mean, he also had teams in there like Kerry, who had this young up-and-coming team and probably one of the greatest footballers of all time, if not the greatest in some people's opinions, in David Clifford. And then you had Mayo, who year on year, year in, year out, seemed to be there or thereabouts. But Tyrone defied all logic. They beat Kerry, they beat Mayo, and they won the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. It was certainly something that not many people expected, although I myself actually made a video back in 2020 discussing how Tyrone could beat Dublin and win the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. Now, long and behold, they actually didn't need to beat Dublin in the end because Mayo did that for them. But nonetheless, Tyrone had their moment. They had their All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. And going into the 2022 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship, I mean, look, Tyrone winning back-to-back All-Irelands would have been an unbelievable achievement. And it was certainly something that not many people expected going into this season. I mean, first of all, Tyrone have never won back-to-back All-Irelands in their history. Their record at defending All-Ireland senior football titles has certainly been quite questionable down the years. And when you look at the fact that there's only been 2 counties that have actually won back-to-back All-Ireland since the early 1990s and late 1980s, that being Dublin and Kerry, the only 2 counties who've won back-to-back All-Irelands, going as far back as Cork in 1990. So, I mean, it was very unlikely, and obviously you were looking for a response from Dublin after a terrible year last year. Kerry still have this up-and-coming team, new manager and Jack O'Connor. Mayo are surely going to improve. Armagh, Derry are building. Galway are building. It was always going to be very difficult for Tyrone to get their hands, keep their hands on the Sam Maguire that they won in 2021. But one thing we certainly didn't account for was just how bad it was from Tyrone in the end. The league was very questionable, and look, obviously as All-Ireland champions, there was going to be a bit of a hangover. They started the league quite poorly, but they did enough to stay up in the end. And actually, as a matter of fact, they beat both Mayo and Kerry, and in the process were the only team to beat Kerry in a competitive game in 2022. You know, so that is an achievement in itself, albeit it was in the league, at the end of the league, when the game didn't really matter much for Kerry because they were already very much guaranteed to get to a league final at that point. But nonetheless, that was still a significant moment for Tyrone, and it certainly did lead us to believe that going into the 2022 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship, that they were ready and they were going to be there or thereabouts, and their early league form was certainly just a blip. And there certainly were some questionable moments in Tyrone's opening game in the Ulster Senior Football Championship against Fermanagh, but nonetheless they showed more than enough quality. They got the job done. They won the game in the end by 7 points. And certainly for Tyrone, it was a confidence booster. And they were going into that game against the Derry side who, you know, certainly hadn't had the type of record in Ulster that Tyrone have had in the last 10 years or so. And Tyrone were certainly going in as favourites. But, yeah, that didn't happen at all. In fact, Derry were comprehensive winners. They beat Tyrone. They hammered Tyrone. They humiliated them in many ways. 118 to 10 points. An awful showing from the reigning Ulster champions. Tyrone sent to the back door. And look, it was an awful performance. It was an awful day at the office for Tyrone, for Brian Donahue and Fergal Logan's men. But surely there was going to be a response in the qualifiers. An away game against bitter rivals Armagh. Surely Tyrone were going to get up for this. Surely they were going to respond. And yeah, that didn't work out either. They were beaten 116 to 110. Armagh, comprehensive, comfortable, get the job done. Big day for Armagh. And for Tyrone, they crash out of the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship on the 5th of June. Having won the All-Ireland in September, you know, just 10 months previously, they were now exiting the championship as early as almost anyone has ever exited the championship as an All-Ireland champion. And certainly you got a lot of people thinking, was it the worst defence ever as an All-Ireland champion? And look, in my recollection, it probably is, to be perfectly honest. I can't really think of many teams that have done worse when they've been, you know, All-Ireland defending champions. But I think all in all, I think the big picture looking at it is, it was one of them years. It was an awful year for Tyrone. The quality's still in the team. The underage is very good. And that's why we're going to get onto the topic of this video, hence the title, why Tyrone are the closest challengers for Kerry in 2023. And actually, as a matter of fact, I think Tyrone could very well beat Kerry. I think Tyrone are probably the closest team. If Kerry are going to go on a run of dominance, if there's a team that can stop them, it's Tyrone, and here's why. And the first main reason is a very obvious reason. I mean, they won the All-Ireland Championship in 2021. They beat Mayo, they beat Kerry, and they obviously went on to beat Kerry in the league as well in 2022. Now, Kerry, to be fair, to give them credit, there has been this weird narrative all the time that Tyrone just have Kerry's number no matter what, and, you know, Tyrone are far more superior than Kerry and all the rest. That is not true whatsoever. I mean, Kerry beat Tyrone in the 2019 All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. Kerry were nowhere near the levels that they're at now, and they went on to actually beat Tyrone in that All-Ireland semi-final. You know, and Tyrone maybe weren't as good as they were in 2021 back in 2019. But let's not forget, Tyrone were in an All-Ireland final just the year previous. And actually, when you look back through the history books, you'll find that Kerry do actually have a better head-to-head record than Tyrone down the years. But nonetheless, Tyrone in the last 2 years have had a bit of something over Kerry. And not only have they had something over Kerry, but they did win that All-Ireland in 2021. And I think we would all agree, had they have faced Dublin in 2021, I think they would have beat them. I mean, look, they beat Kerry, they beat Mayo, Mayo beat Dublin. I think Tyrone would have had enough. And I think, you know, they do have a very, very good squad. Peter Hart has been an extraordinary servant for this Tyrone side. He's an incredible footballer, whether he's playing at wing-back, whether he's playing in at centre-back. I mean, those venturing forward runs, the support play, the leadership that man has, he's an extraordinary talent, make no mistake about that. You've got Darren Mccurry, who really, since coming back in the side in the last couple of years, has really, really kicked on and made himself one of the best forwards in the country. And, you know, he was incredible in many ways in 2021 and really spearheaded that attack in more ways than one. You've had Conor Mckenna, who's come back in the side and has at times shown a little bit of inconsistency, but I think when he's on it, you see the talent that he possesses. Colin McShane has had his injury problems, but nonetheless, again, another very, very good footballer. And, you know, again, maybe another, you know, a bit of break for him over the next year might do him the world of good, and he might come in fresh for next season. Brian Kennedy and Con Kilpatrick, I think, are, you know, one of the best midfield pairings in the country. They proved that in 2021. Couple of injury problems in there in 2022, I think, definitely set them back. But, you know, with a bit of consistency in that midfield, I think they've got a lot of, you know, they're very, very solid around the middle. Defensively, Ronan McNamee, absolutely brilliant. Padraig Hampsey, as we've seen, I mean, we all remember that point he scored in the final with the outside of his boot, you know, and he's a very, very good player, whether playing a cornerback or even sometimes a fullback. So Tyrone have got a very, very good balance in their squad. Now, maybe where they do fall down, and where they did fall down last year, and maybe where there is some question marks, is their bench and their sort of depth in their squad, and whether the sort of fringe players have the commitment and the desire that you would want to see from a team competing for an All-Ireland Senior Football Championship. Last year, Tiernan McCann opted out. Lee Brennan made himself unavailable as well. A couple of players also didn't want to participate for Tyrone in last year's championship and also in the qualifiers. And that was a little bit of a strange one from a Tyrone perspective, and certainly from an All-Ireland champion. Now, Dublin have sometimes had this problem in the past where, you know, a lot of players have sort of made themselves unavailable, even though they've been the best team in the country, and had they have stuck around, they would have played a significant part and probably would have got an extra All-Ireland medal in the process. And I do think the situations are slightly different, though, at the same time. Dublin, you know, for a lot of these players like Mannion and Jack McCaffrey, you know, they probably won enough All-Irelands. Maybe they just wanted a break. Maybe they wanted to do something different. But for some of these players with Tyrone, who have just the one All-Ireland, it's a little bit unusual. And not to say that they would have stuck around and Tyrone would have won the All-Ireland. But maybe it would have made a difference. Maybe Tiernan McCann coming off the bench would have made an impact against Armagh. Maybe a player with the quality of Lee Brennan, who has probably never really done that great for the inter-county team, but when we've seen him play with Tralee at club level, he clearly is a talent, make no mistake about that. Maybe him coming off the bench would have made a bit of an impact. Paul Donahue's another player as well who's looked very good at club level, but hasn't quite hit the heights at inter-county level. So, there is players in the county, and a bit of unity and a bit of togetherness maybe might be required, and I'm not exactly sure what went wrong there. But I've no doubts if Tyrone can pull together, get those players back on board, I think they're very, very well equipped, because they've got very good in-depth, depth in their squad that a lot of other counties don't have. And they also have the knack of beating Kerry, which a lot of other teams don't seem to have at the minute either. Another reason why Tyrone could very well stop Kerry in winning the All-Ireland next year, and could be thereabouts, and, dent Kerry's potential dominance over the next couple of seasons is, well, the fact that they do have very good underage structures, and Tyrone probably have, you could arguably say, the best underage structures, and I may be better at underage level than any other county, and I think they've shown that year on year in the last couple of seasons. I mean, 2021 they won the minor All-Ireland Football Championship, and last year they won the under-20 All-Ireland Football Championship, and have a player that I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with in Rory Canavan. He scored 1-7 in that final last year against Kildare when they ran out winners in the end by 6 points. So, when you have those players coming through who are looking very, very good, who are playing well, who are causing, problems for the teams that they're coming up against, I think that gives Tyrone very, very good sort of optimism going into next year's championship. And I think players like Rory Canavan, obviously his brother Darren Canavan as well, who's looked impressive enough, to be fair, since coming into the Tyrone senior team as well. So there's a lot of room for optimism, and I do think Tyrone, especially with the way that they play as well, that sort of getting men back, being physical in the tackle, making it tough for teams to play through them. Kerry have almost adopted that template themselves with the fact that Paddy Tally's come in. It would almost be a clash of styles in some ways, and it would be a very intriguing game actually to watch if Kerry and Tyrone played each other in 2023, which I feel like should happen, and I feel like it probably will, to be honest. Ultimately, I give Tyrone a great chance going into next year. It's too early to say, obviously, that they'll go and win the All-Ireland next year, and they'll go and beat Kerry. I mean, there's a lot of sort of things that can happen between then. There could be injuries. There could be players opting out. Is there unrest in the Tyrone camp? I don't think so, personally. I just think maybe it was just one of them years where they were defending the All-Ireland, and, because they were expected to win it in 2021, there was probably just an inevitable drop-off. But when you do look at the quality of players, like I've mentioned already, the good underage players coming through, the way Tyrone set up, and if they can get a few more players back on side in the squad, I'll give them a serious chance next year. I really, really do. And I think they are the closest challengers to Kerry, in my opinion. Make no mistake about that. They proved that in 2021, and whilst last year was a disastrous year for Tyrone, I give them a serious chance. I really, really do. But I'd be curious to know your opinions in the comments down below. So, yeah, cheers to anyone who's tuned in. My name is Aaron. Hit the like button, subscribe if you enjoy this content. Plenty more videos coming out over the coming days and weeks. Podcasts, all the rest. We'll be starting to do more player interviews as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. My name's Aaron, and I will see you all in the next one.